hear me, see my slides?
Perfect. That's it.
Lovely.
All yours.
All right. I am so excited to be here and to be here virtually in person, but I am from the Twin Cities, sitting in the Twin Cities. I have an optical illusion. It's not actually a virtual background. It's a real life wall covering since I am a hybrid employee and I'm working in the office today. So thrilled to be here to talk with you about Viva Engage and how it can be leveraged to help really power and propel employee conversations to move forward. So with that, let me start off for those that don't know me. My name is Sarah Haase. I do live in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. My background by education is I am a librarian. However, never worked at a library a day in my life. I do work for very large corporations, helping them organize their information, their data, and enable their employees to go out and meet business objectives effectively using day-to-day data. Most of my experience is in the Microsoft 365 space. So I am a product manager, and as it said on the title slide, my day job, I do work for US Bank. All my other information is here, and I know Michelle had links to podcasts and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the agenda of what I'm going to cover today. And I want you to feel free to post questions in the chat. I'll take as many of them and just call them out as they come in and answer as many as I can in the time that I have today. But really what we're focusing on from a Viva Engage perspective is first why employee engagement is so important and what employee engagement means to me. I always think it's valuable to start off with a common shared understanding of terminology and what we're looking to do. So we're going to start off there conceptually. Then we're going to start discussing why is Viva Engage so important? Why am I such a proponent of coming and wanting to talk to you today about Viva Engage? Then we're going to talk about the ever important topics of getting buy-in for Viva Engage. It is effectively a souped up digital water cooler experience for your employees with a ton of great functionality. Along with that comes the opportunity for people to type messages in and share them with other employees. So we need to make sure that we're doing the right thing and working with all of our corporate partners in our organizations to be able to obtain buy-in on using it. Make sure we're governing it effectively. And then I want to round out the session by talking about employee conversations and how we can leverage Viva Engage as part of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem to interconnect Viva Engage and SharePoint, Viva Engage and Microsoft Teams, Viva Engage with Viva Connections. So we're going to talk about that to wrap everything up today. So let's start off with talking about how to drive employee engagement and why employee engagement is so important. Employee engagement has always been very important for all the organizations that I've worked with. I've had the privilege and honor of getting to work with people like Don and Michelle and several other people that are on the call today. And it's amazing when you get the opportunity to work with people that you truly know professionally, you know personally, and you have the ability to learn their strengths and weaknesses. I think that since 2020, that's been a larger challenge for many organizations as we've had people shifting jobs, as people are working remotely, as people are working in a hybrid situation, and maybe they're working even when they go into the office in different office locations that might be closer to their homes than they were before. So this idea of employee engagement has never been more important than in the last 5 years, as we have greatly changed from a culture and a society perspective of how we engage with others. It's also really important to focus on empathy and how it makes a difference. I think that one of the best things that we've gained in the last 4 or 5 years is a broader and deeper understanding for what other people may be going through. I think that it's a muscle that we learn to flex since 2020. I think that when you ask a question, how are you doing today? And if someone might be more open to saying, you know what, I'm not doing very well today, and you might stop, pause, and actually be open to having a discussion with them about why. And that empathy is really important. And it doesn't make a difference whether you're a manager, whether you're a peer, whether you are showing empathy to your leaders or managers above you, to people who work for you, to people who work on cross-functional teams. This level of empathy and being willing and being open about how we are and checking in and actively listening to how other people are is so important. And it really ties into our happiness, not only personally, but our happiness at work. And we know that a more happy employee who feels heard and seen both personally and professionally at work is going to be an employee who delivers better business results for whatever organization that they're working for. And this empathy ties directly into, it ties directly into the definition of what employee engagement is. So this is my definition of employee engagement. It's the degree to which employees choose to invest their mental, emotional, and behavioral energies towards a positive individual and business outcomes. The most important part of this definition is that employees have to choose it. Engagement means that the employees are voluntarily giving of themselves and they have a unified perspective of what's good for them, might also be good for the company, and they're interested in that mutual development. One of the key things that I like to talk about is the difference between compliance and engagement, or compliance and adoption. When we're talking about compliance, if your company started to require you to fill out a special but convoluted form in order to get a day off, many of us, myself included, would go ahead and fill out that form even if it took us a bunch of time, because if I fill out this cumbersome form, I get the day off that I want to get. That's driving compliance, meaning in order to get something that I want, I'll give something that the company wants. Adoption or engagement happens when I choose to want to invest because there's something about it that's attractive to me, either cognitively, emotionally, or behaviorally. I see value in it. I'm going to choose it rather than just being told that I must comply with it. So that is my perspective on employee engagement. And the most important part of that, again, is that employees voluntarily lean in. They're intrinsically or internally motivated to participate. Microsoft 365 has a wide array of products and features and functionality that can help us on this employee engagement path. From SharePoint, and think about home sites, hubs, organizational news sites, even the SharePoint app bar that displays in your browser that enables you to quickly jump to different items like your Microsoft lists or create new SharePoint sites, to Viva Engage, which we're going to talk about in more detail today, and all of the features like the ability to ask questions, share ideas, and really foster that open dialogue with employees. And then, of course, we have Microsoft Teams, which connects everything together in all of the products to be able to do more every day. So with that as an overview of the concept of what employee engagement is and what it means for us, I think it's really important to talk about why Viva Engage is important. As Michelle mentioned, Viva Engage is really the souped up new version of Yammer. Many of you may know that Yammer was purchased by Microsoft or acquired by Microsoft, I think about 10 or 15 years ago. Viva Engage represents a brand new, literally code-based platform for Yammer with not only a lot of new functionality that's already been released, but an extensive roadmap of features that are going to still be released on top of that Viva Engage platform. So what makes Viva Engage special is that it really empowers two-way or multi-way conversations between your employees. It's really the sweet spot is using it as an internal mechanism to be able to strengthen relationships and to help people connect. And what I love about Viva Engage is that it goes farther and it behaves somewhat differently than Microsoft Teams. Most of the time I find that people get Microsoft Teams and Viva Engage, they think that they do the same things. And they're actually best of breed in the different spaces that they're in. While Microsoft Teams can certainly help you to be able to connect and have meaningful conversations with teams and groups that you work with every day, that you might be in the same Microsoft team and you can have chat and channel conversations with those people, Viva Engage helps you to connect with people based on subject matter or area of interest, including people that you don't know. The key for Microsoft Teams is I can't be part of a team-based conversation if I'm not part of the Microsoft team. And if I'm not part of that team in Microsoft Teams, I might not even know that that conversation is happening. However, in Viva Engage, I have the ability to take a look at all of the communities that exist in Viva Engage, which are really based on subject area. And in most cases, those communities are going to be open so that I can literally find them, I can browse them, and I can participate in that conversation without having it be hidden from me. So it really enables you to not only work with or talk with people that you know inside your organization, but also connect and meet new people that you might not know based on having a shared common interest. Viva Engage also enables you to really effectively connect with your leadership teams, especially for leaders that are willing to live out loud and to be able to have those conversations, either as part of structured Ask Me Anything events or informally by just responding to questions or posts on Viva Engage. Viva Engage has a ton of great features and capabilities and use cases that surround it. So you can use Viva Engage to do everything from encouraging people to ideate, to post new ideas into some think tank or water cooler experiences or communities, to being able to drive business awareness, being able to find experts. So if I have a desire to grow this year, for example, in building out Power Apps, that I might be able to post something specific in Viva Engage about certain features or functionality within Power Apps that I want to learn more about. And I might be able to find a subject matter expert in my organization who responds to my message, who I may not have known previously. And then we can build a working relationship to help us build a better network. So Viva Engage is also great for onboarding. Cannot recommend it highly enough. I know that a community based on new employees or new employee onboarding can be an essential part of your onboarding process to help make it easier for employees to be able to find other people like them, other people that are just starting out, and give them a soft place to fall in terms of being able to post questions, comments, and thoughts to get answers. Viva Engage is also important because it quite simply gives everyone in your organization a voice. They can showcase their work, they can ask questions, they can respond to questions, they can provide praise to their colleagues, they can follow other people in their organization, and they have the ability to express themselves and extend their personal network. So it's a really great way to be able to do that. Working for a company that has both corporate employees and field or branch-based employees, I love being able to see pictures of frontline workers and see their day-to-day experiences and how they're giving back in their local communities. I love being able to see when people are very excited about closing on their first house and they take a picture and they share that life experience with others at the company. Viva Engage really provides that rich experience that really enables us to be able to go faster and to do more. Along with that, Viva Engage has some really great features and functionality that has come out within the last couple of years, and I want to highlight some of them. But before I go into specifics on storylines, I do need to comment that Viva Engage is part of a set of products, meaning you can have Viva Engage as part of your enterprise licensing, but then Microsoft also now has Viva Engage premium features, which you can purchase through additional licensing. At the very end of the slide today, I'm actually going to have a slide that covers the Viva Engage premium features and the different SKUs that you can purchase that through from Microsoft, but I will do my best as I cover some of these Viva Engage features to call out whether they're part of the base Viva Engage product or whether they are a premium feature. The first one I want to go through is storylines in Viva Engage, and this is a premium feature, so you're going to need to pay extra in addition to your enterprise license for Viva Engage for this. But Viva Engage Storylines is really sort of, I like to think about it as a LinkedIn for my organization. So if I go on LinkedIn, or if you all look me up on LinkedIn, you're going to see that I have a profile, I have a picture, I have the ability to post my work experiences. I can even share updates for everyone. I can share a post. I can share information on maybe what future conferences that I'm going to be speaking at or how I'm going to engage within the community. Storylines is that same kind of functionality, but inside Viva Engage. So I have the ability to basically have a home for me from a profile perspective. Could help me build my personal brand at work, enable me an opportunity to share things. One of the things that I think of is the ability to provide a state of the state. As a product owner for Viva Engage for my organization, I might want to be able to use this to say, what's new in Viva Engage this month, and why does Viva Engage make a difference? And enable me as a leader to be approachable. Other people can follow me and see my updates on storylines come through in their overall newsfeed area for Viva Engage. The next one I want to talk about is Leadership Corner. This is also a Viva Engage premium feature, and it's a dedicated space for leaders within your organization to encourage open dialogue and feedback. So they can share news and it will be a more custom user interface branding experience with a lot more bells and whistles than if they were just going to go out to Viva Engage and post some leadership updates. There's actually some enhanced functionality about running Ask Me Anythings that you get if you use Leadership Corner. Now, Ask Me Anythings or AMAs traditionally have been, the thought is that you have leaders or you have experts or subject matter experts or people show up at a specific point in time and say, we're going to respond to questions out on Viva Engage live for a period of time, maybe 30 minutes or an hour long. That traditionally is an Ask Me Anything. Leadership Corner has some enhanced capabilities around running AMA events for leaders within your organization. You can run AMAs just using the base Viva Engage product without these, but want to make sure that if you're going to invest in that Viva Engage premium feature, that you have your corporate communications or your leadership support teams go through and learn how you can use Leadership Corner to get enhanced dashboards for tracking purposes, more metrics, and employee sentiment on both the messaging to leaders and leader responses, because that can really help your leaders to be better in tune with the employees and the feedback that they're getting. The next one is social campaigns, and I love this feature, also Viva Engage Premium. But the idea behind social campaigns is to be able to take a campaign, for example, volunteer campaigns, so giving back to your community, or a United Way campaign, some other campaign internally within your organization, an employee assistance fund, for example, where you want to create a logo, visuals, you want a hashtag, you want to be able to track goals for it, and you want to make sure that wherever you post that hashtag in Microsoft 365, when people click on it, they automatically get taken back to Viva Engage into this rich interface that enables them to be part of the social campaign and to be able to spread that message and share the love with other people in their organization. So love this idea of social campaigns. It really adds a level of enrichment to the process with which you can deploy things. So take a look at that. Also a Viva Engage premium feature. And then we have Answers in Viva. Answers in Viva is basically kind of a consortium between Viva Engage and what is currently Viva Topics. Now, Viva Topics is actually being discontinued or retired and will be replaced profoundly by Copilot. But Answers in Viva is basically if someone goes out to Viva Engage and starts typing in a question, which happens all the time. It could be, I'm unable to get Outlook, my desktop application, to load today. Something appears to be wrong. I need some help with it. But they go out and start typing that into Viva Engage. Answers in Viva is going to basically go through and look at the natural language terms that they typed in, and it's going to suggest answers that have already been posted to Viva Engage for that question. So think about it almost like an advanced initiative to try and line up the question with the appropriate answers without having to have someone wait or repeat that question and answer multiple times. One of the profound truisms that I experience in my day-to-day life is that people will ask a question and they will type up their question rather than searching to see if that question's already been asked and answered previously. So Answers in Viva really can help to automate that capability and make it easier to be able to help people find the answers to their questions. And then we have Copilot in Viva Engage. Copilot will be coming out in Viva Engage. There will be a variety of features on it. I included a URL here where you can go and learn more about the capabilities that are coming. But think of Copilot for Viva Engage like being able to ask, for example, Copilot to help you wordsmith a post for Viva Engage. If you are a leader in your organization and you're not sure, you know that you want to start being more open and talking with people in Viva Engage, but you have no idea what kind of topic to start talking about, you can actually ask Copilot in Viva Engage to suggest topic areas for you, give you feedback on previous posts and whether or not there was traction on it or people engaged with it and commented back. So you're going to be able to use Copilot in a variety of ways along with Viva Engage to help you go farther and do more. So I saw that we had a comment, so I'll go ahead and address that. Just to read through this, Jason, one limitation of Engage is that there is no way to hide private communities that I can see. And yes, so Viva Engage has two types of communities, public or private. Public communities, that's kind of the default within Viva Engage, enables everyone to be able to see the postings of the community, and you can go ahead and do a like or a love on a post or make a post or reply to a post without joining the community, meaning you can participate as someone who is basically just analogous to the community. You don't have to click the join button at the top of the community page in Viva Engage to be able to participate. Private communities in Viva Engage, you do actually have to click that join button and join the community in order to post something in there. I've actually seen the need for private communities on occasion, especially with some employee resource groups where they have a desire to have a more dedicated space specific to certain employee special areas of interest. So I've seen different companies use private versus public very differently, but the private communities are really meant to make it so that only people who have taken an interest, clicked on that join button to actually join the community can actually go out then and post in the community. All right, so let's continue on our Viva Engage journey with talking about buy-in. And when I think about this section, many of you may feel like this when we're talking about Viva Engage, because at the end of the day, when you enable Viva Engage in your organization, you are lighting up an open text box to all of your employees, letting them type whatever they want and post it so that everybody in the company can see it. If that does not give you pause to think about the need for buy-in, management, and governance, it really should, because all of us have opinions. And the one thing that's certainly true is that we do not all share the same opinions, especially when it comes to both work and personal topics and beliefs. So it is really important that you think about Viva Engage in terms of achieving buy-in from some critical groups within your organization. So you want to think about not only your IT group and whether or not they're really bought in. You should be talking with human resources, legal, employee relations, corporate communications. You should really be going across the board to be able to talk to your CISO at your organization or your chief information security officer. You want to make sure that these key stakeholders understand what Viva Engage is, why it can be really important for your organization, what it can empower, and how you're going to govern it. And you want to do all of that before you move forward with turning Viva Engage on. Turning Viva Engage on, I always say that as a platform owner for a company, it's one thing to turn on a service or an application within Microsoft 365. It's a completely other thing to be able to keep it running. It's very easy to turn something on and light up licensing. It can sometimes be much more difficult to be able to keep that running, especially if conversations go in a direction where it raises concerns about what employees are talking about on that platform. So I have a couple of suggestions about how you can go about trying to obtain this buy-in. And I've kind of broken it down into three models. These are certainly not the only three models that you can use, but I think that it really helps to sort of give you a starting point as to how you're thinking about wanting to roll out Viva Engage. So the first option is that you can try and blaze your own trail, meaning I'm just going to go ahead and turn on Viva Engage. We'll worry about governance later. If I talk to our legal team and our human resources team, they'll never approve it anyway. And that'll take 3 years, and I don't have that kind of time. So this is the sort of go forward first, grant licensing and approval, turn it on, and ask for forgiveness later approach. The second one is really moving as a unit. So that is really trying to drive consensus among all of your key partners. Generally, I think that this starts with let's go and get a demo of Viva Engage from Microsoft. And then we're going to meet again to talk about what we learned. And then we're going to meet again to answer questions about what we thought about during our last call. And if you've been part of any projects like this, we could be talking about this for the next 3 to 13 years and not necessarily make positive headway if we're trying to get consensus and have everyone work together in a circle and move together at the same rate, and finally then sign off on Viva Engage from an organizational perspective. And then the third model that I like to recommend is what I call the superhero and friends model. This is your hybrid approach. This is the one that I took at my organization when we rolled out Viva Engage, which is the one thing that I can most closely control is my team's time. So we decided to bring all of our key partners, corporate communications, human resources, legal, employee relations, in on some initial demos with Microsoft. And then we proposed to them, why doesn't our team go back and we will put together a very detailed governance and strategy document, including use cases of how we're going to use Viva Engage. And then we agreed that we'd send that to our partners and give them a line item veto. So basically a red pen to go in and update or ask questions about anything that they didn't like. It enabled us to basically really quickly come up with, in only a factor of a month or two, a really detailed governance and strategy implementation plan. But it made all of our core partners feel great because they still had the ability to go in and affect any outcome that they wanted. And they didn't have to invent that governance and strategy from nothing. They could react to something that was already documented and already written down. So it gave them a feeling of comfort and still being able to steer the ship in the right direction while enabling us to move faster instead of having to move together as a consensus. And I see that we have another comment about Viva Engage and its lack of ability to create and surveil at scale conversations that are going on. That's actually going to be in our next section on governance. So hopefully you're going to learn some things there that will really help you. So these are really the three basic models that I recommend thinking about as you're trying to obtain the buy-in for Viva Engage. But you also have to think about the importance of culture, specifically the culture of your organization. How do you tend to work together? Is your organization focused on what's their risk profile? What's most important to them from an employee engagement perspective? Do they tend to really invest in wanting employees to be able to communicate openly with others? Do they have more of a risk-averse nature where they want to really control how much room they give employees to be able to openly dialogue with others? So the culture of your organization, the industry that you're in, will really help to drive your approach to Viva Engage and help you to land on a strategy and a governance model that works for you. So in this superhero and friends example that I gave you, which is how we rolled forward at my organization, I wanted to give you an idea of really how we went about that from a logistic perspective. So we started again with a formal Viva Engage introduction. We did a product demo from Microsoft. We talked about why Viva Engage could be important for us as an organization. We went through together and created use cases and what we were hoping to get out of Viva Engage. We also did what we called a future forecasting model, where we took a look at, let's say that we rolled out Viva Engage, what do we think we want to get, or what kind of benefits do we think Viva Engage would give us in 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, etc. We then went in and had some Q&A deep dives with Microsoft, where specifically our IT team was able to ask a lot of questions about what can we control. For example, can you turn off the all company community within Viva Engage? Can you turn off the ability for people to add GIFs to posts in Viva Engage? What can you do? What can't you do? How can we manage this tool? Then my team, since I'm the product owner for Viva Engaged, we developed a detailed strategy document. I think it was around 40 to 50 page document where we went through and talked at length about Viva Engage, what it is, the use cases, how we were going to manage it, how communities could be created in Viva Engage, and how we would support it over time. We held formal review meetings with key stakeholders for them to give them an overview of the document. And then we asked them to formally sign off on the strategy document and gave them the ability to redline or make changes at the line item level. I call those the line item vetoes. So they could either vote for things or they could veto individual process. And then we went through and formalized our governance process and really kept our key partners close for a period of 3 to 6 months, where we met with them weekly to just talk about the state of Viva Engage from a health and a usage perspective. So that way they felt comfortable that we weren't going to turn it on and then forget about it or just let it grow however it wanted. It was still being actively managed. If you're interested in the kind of content that we put in our strategy document, I wanted to give you sort of a table of contents takeaway slide that you could look at it. And we covered everything from literally a bulleted list of what are the main use cases for Viva Engage. In other words, why was it important for us to enable it and turn it on in our organization? Talking about the benefits. Data retention is so important. Are you going to turn on any retention limits in Viva Engage, or can posts in Viva Engage literally live out there forever? What is your organization's rules for that? Along with data retention, you can also think about Microsoft Purview items like sensitivity labels. Will you have sensitivity labels, and are they required? Behind all modern Viva Engage communities is a Microsoft 365 group. So what kinds of permission models are you going to have for that? What kinds of sensitivity labels are you going to use? Then we have a whole section on user limitations. So are any users blocked from using Viva Engage? Are there users that are only supposed to look at Viva Engage but not post based on the fact that they are highly regulated users, and whether or not we have the ability to archive and supervise Viva Engage posts? We went through and talked about kinds of data that we have from an organizational perspective. Do we want top secret information or personal information stored in Viva Engage? What are the rules about what kinds of things you can post or not post? And then you got to have policies on things like bad and inappropriate language. I'm going to talk much more about that. It's my favorite bit of this presentation is when we get to talk about all the bad words. Michelle knows that. So then you need to think about access, governance, and then the operations of it day to day. How are you going to manage Viva Engage moving forward? So then we're going to move on to the all-important topic of Viva Engage governance. As I mentioned before, if it doesn't give you pause to think about turning on Viva Engage and allowing every employee theoretically in your company the ability to have an open text box where they can type in what they want to share with everyone, it probably should give you pause. So you're going to want to think about how you govern Viva Engage. As I always like to say to my team, governance shows that you care. If I were a free-range parent of my kids, then maybe I wouldn't have any governance around how they live their life or how I raise them. But if I want them to turn out to be healthy, well-functioning adults, having some level of governance is an important part of life. And so I take the same approach to owning a product like Viva Engage, where you need to have some parameters and you need to have some level of governance around it to be able to protect it from itself. First level of things to think about in Viva Engage is community management. As I mentioned before, Viva Engage is really structured based on subject area communities. So it's really important to think about how you want those communities to be created. Behind every community is going to be a Microsoft 365 group. Are you going to allow people to be able to create those communities by themselves? Are you going to have them be approved? And are you going to have an administrator create all of those communities? What, if any, process or rigor are you going to put around having communities? And if you're going to not allow people to self-service the creation of a Viva Engage community, how much time is it going to take you to review and then process the creation of that community? Because that time difference between when someone requests a new community and when you fulfill that request is where things go to die. And it's where interest goes to die. It's where employee engagement goes to die. So there is something valuable in being able to say from an adoption perspective that if I am on a meeting with Pete, Don, and Michelle right now, and I have an idea for a Viva Engage community, by the time I leave that meeting, if I can't create the Viva Engage community and start using it, 20 minutes later, I'll forget what it's for. And if it takes a week for you to create it for me, I won't even care about that Viva Engage community a week from now. So it's important to think about how you want to approach that. Then you need to think about, do you want an owner or owners on record for each of your Viva Engage communities? Do you have any auditing requirements? All of these are very important in terms of community management. Then you need to think about what kinds of things you're comfortable with having people talk about. Many companies that I talk to say, we can roll out Viva Engage, but we don't want anyone to talk about anything that isn't about work. And while I can understand that, the reality is from an adoption perspective, most people like talking about areas of interest to them beyond work. So if you want people to engage and to be able to have healthy employee dialogue, you also need to strongly think about whether expecting them to only have a life at work and not have a life outside of work and never talk about anything outside of work is going to get you to where you want to go. But you also need to think about how you're going to respond when someone wants to create a new community. So I always like to have a sliding scale set of questions for you to think about. And the first one is, do you have a problem with Viva Engage communities that might be focused on somewhat innocuous topics or subjects like coffee? I happen to love coffee. Are you okay with having a Viva Engage community that is focused on coffee? And it's okay if you can give me a thumbs up if you're good with the idea of your employees talking in Viva Engage about coffee. Give me a thumbs up so I can see if any of you are. I think we have two people that are generally okay with the idea of people talking about coffee. Then we have religious-based groups. How do you feel about religious-based groups in communities within Viva Engage, and whether or not that's something that your company should allow? Now, most people, when I go and talk to them about Viva Engage, they say, whoa, this concerns me. I don't think that we should have religious-based groups. But then I want to ask you, how many of you have worked for companies that have employee resource groups or business resource groups that are officially sanctioned by the company? I know in companies that I've worked for, we have those, and several of those employee resource groups are religious-based groups. And then you have the question of, if you allow employee resource groups that are not religious-based to have Viva Engage communities, would it be discrimination to not allow employee resource groups that are religious-based communities from having an area to be able to have a conversation? So you really need to work with that legal and human resources team to think carefully about what you want to allow and what you don't want to allow. And then please keep in mind that one person's religious group is another person's, group that brings up a lot of negative feelings and negative emotions. So the tricky part here is that if you're going to enable Viva Engage conversations, what do you do when you find a community or you find a conversation that you strongly disagree with from a personal perspective? And how do you treat that? I can also say that just from a product owner perspective, one of the hardest things for me to do, or for me to teach my team to do, is to separate our personal opinion from owning Viva Engage from a company perspective. Because at the end of the day, my job is not to agree or disagree with what people say in Viva Engage, but to be able to protect it and be a good steward and owner of the platform from a corporate or from a company perspective. So making sure that you're able to somehow separate your personal views and feelings from what you're going to support from an organizational perspective is really important. Moderation. This is also going to be important for you. What do you need to moderate? How do you control for things in Viva Engage? The reality is Viva Engage is actually very limited in the kinds of moderation that is built into the product. So remember when I said earlier that Viva Engage was Yammer previously, and that was a company and product that was acquired by Microsoft. So Yammer had a keyword monitoring capability that I'll go through in just a moment built into that product. Microsoft has kept that keyword monitoring perspective, but it's really still, it works well, but it's antique and it's sort of niche in terms of what it does. Beyond that, you're going to be looking at third-party solutions to potentially moderate and monitor things. As far as I know, there are many third-party tools that you can get that will do analysis on Viva Engage and on sentiment on posts. There is nothing that I am personally aware of that is a person in the middle or a machine in the middle, meaning there's nothing, they all evaluate Viva Engage posts after they're posted. Not that when someone, for example, Michelle goes to make a post, that it would actually evaluate if Michelle's post is appropriate and then decide to either allow it to be posted on Viva Engage or not allow it to be posted on Viva Engage. So all of this moderation happens after something is posted, not preemptively or in a gatekeeping fashion beforehand. So here is the keyword monitoring functionality that's in Viva Engage today. It's literally for Viva Engage admins, the ability to go in and add monitored keywords. Here's what you get. You get a regex formatted list of keywords that you can add in. And I said regex, which I had to Google because that's pretty old. You have to manage your regex carefully because gerund endings on words, you have to add every possible permutation of every ending on a word to be able to manage that. So your singular version of the word, your plural version of the word, an ing ending on the word, you got to implement all of those as separate lines in your regex. Basically, if any post is made anywhere in Viva Engage and one of your regex monitored keywords is on that list, it's going to send an email. You get an email address field. You can make that an individual or a distribution list or a security enabled group email address. That's what we have ours set up to go to. I got to be honest, we started off with building a keyword monitoring list. We were actually able to get recommendations from several other companies for a keyword monitoring list of either important phrases or bad words from other organizations, and then we have added to it over time. We continue to add to it. In fact, I actually had a conversation this morning where we were debating about additional keywords to add in. Things that are relevant in this year from a presidential election perspective. So we are currently looking at adding in some additional keywords that might be related to certain elections that are coming up in November. So that way we can monitor it. Again, this keyword monitoring doesn't actually remove any Viva Engage messages. It simply fires off an email when something is posted, and then you can allow whoever is going to be the person in charge of deciding whether something is inappropriate or goes beyond the bounds of what's allowed at your company to be able to take action on it. In my organization, I am the product owner. I take an admin level set of accountability responses if we're going to follow up and remove a post or we're going to reach out to an employee. But there might be other constituents or stakeholders that make decisions on what is out of bounds or what needs action taken versus what is permitted inside of Viva Engage. The other thing, and Michelle, this is going to be fun because I know this is recorded on YouTube, so I'm going to try and do this without actually saying any bad words, but you have to know that there are bad words that you're going to have to put on your monitored keywords list. There's a lot of words that you're going to put on that list potentially that you might get a lot of false positives. For example, just this morning, I got an email for a monitored keyword based on a Viva Engage post that went up about a brand new crock-pot chicken breast recipe. I get emails every time somebody posts a new chicken breast recipe because that is a monitored keyword. So you need to make sure that you're keeping in mind which words that you want to put in from a moderation perspective and then how you're going to follow up on those words. Another point of interest, when we launched Viva Engage, we actually had weekly meetings with some of our key partners from a legal and an employee relations and an HR perspective, where we reviewed with them some of the keyword monitoring emails that came in. In several cases, nobody on the call could figure out what the bad word was. I don't know if the people that we got our starting list of bad words from were just smarter than we were, but I can say that if you're not sure what the bad word is and you're going to go out to Urban Dictionary and look that up, please do that on your personal cell phone, not on your work device, because you will learn words that you never knew before. And these are real world conversations that I get to have every day. They enrich my life, and I love that from a Viva Engage perspective. So I learn new things all the time. All right, I also want to point out really quickly, and I'm only going to touch on this momentarily, that there is the ability to use Microsoft has enabled some capabilities to be able to use AI to be able to determine or to provide sentiment analysis ratings, so a numerical sentiment score on Viva Engage posts. And you can basically do this. It does take AI Builder credits. You can turn this on in a given Viva Engage community, and it basically uses Power Automate to be able to go out, kick off a workflow when a new message is posted to a community and get a sentiment score on it. So then you can basically dashboard out sentiment for different communities. I know that I have a blog post out on my blog site. So if you just do Sarah Haase, Viva Engage, or Yammer, you should be able to find that. And it's got all of the details about how to go about setting that up. So I just want to mention that at a high level so that we can move forward. All right. So bringing employee conversations into view, I want to be able to highlight some of the ways in which Viva Engage ties into other Microsoft 365 products in the ecosystem. One important way is the level of engagement between the Viva Engage app and Microsoft Teams. So if you are in Microsoft Teams, there is a Viva Engage app. You can see that I have it in this example pinned on my Teams navigation rail or on the Teams app bar. But it is the ability to pull up Viva Engage and to work and see Viva Engage conversations and be able to post to Viva Engage all within the frame of Microsoft Teams. So you don't have to have a separate browser window open. There is, of course, a Viva Engage mobile app. There's a progressive web app. You can open up Viva Engage in your browser, and you can use it also inside of Teams. So for some employees, I know that they prefer to be able to do everything with inside of Microsoft Teams. There's an app for that. You can do all of your Viva Engage posting inside of Teams. We already talked about this earlier, but you can also use Viva Engage as your platform and as your tool for hosting Ask Me Anything events. We've hosted Ask Me Anything events for leaders to be able to provide feedback to employees. We've also hosted AMAs for things like product areas. So we've had AMAs before on Copilot, or an AMA on Microsoft Teams, or an AMA on Microsoft 365, where we basically have subject matter experts on hand and people can come and basically have discourse with us live on Viva Engage for an hour at a specified date and time. I also want to point out that if you use SharePoint, and specifically SharePoint news articles, to be able to exchange information in your organization, that you can actually click on, many people don't realize this, but when you publish a SharePoint news article, there is a promote button that will appear at the top of that news article, and it's highlighted here in yellow. If you click on that promote icon, it actually will give you the ability to promote that news article to different locations, either to Teams or via Outlook. But one of the options is to be able to send it to Viva Engage. And it actually will pop up if you click promote and then send to Viva Engage. It's going to pop up a rich text box that will enable you to be able to generate some introductory text, choose which community in Viva Engage that you'd like to post it to, and it posts both the news article along with the title, a little blurb of the news article, and a picture that might be the image that you have at the top of that news article, and it will post it out to Viva Engage. So you don't have to copy the URL and go out to Viva Engage separately. It's a fast and easy way to be able to share news articles in Viva Engage and to be able to get more people the ability to view that content. So a really great way to be able to get to that. Question from Pete. Do you pin the Viva Engage app in Microsoft Teams for all users? That is a soapbox that requires another 70-minute session. I love pinning things in Microsoft Teams, but I'm very aware that real estate is an important and valuable thing on the Microsoft Teams app bar. So if you're going to pin Viva Engage app in Microsoft Teams for all users, what else are you going to pin? And how are you going to decide what you're going to pin? Because if you're going to pin Viva Engage, what happens every time someone else wants to pin something? And what happens to Viva Engage? Does it keep on moving farther and farther and farther down the app bar, and it ends up getting hidden because other people have asked to pin things above it? So I would ask you to please keep in mind how many things you want to pin and to make really good decisions about what to pin, when to pin, and how to proceed. Now, as I promised before, we actually have several different license SKUs available for Viva Engage. Remember, Viva Engage you get as part of your enterprise agreement with Microsoft. But in addition to that, Microsoft has other SKUs that enable you to get those Viva Engage premium features, like storylines, leadership corner, social campaigns, and all the Copilot features that are going to be able to come out. And this slide, I have a URL on here. This was current as of a couple of weeks ago. The picture was. So Microsoft has a couple of different SKUs that you can use if you want those Viva Engage premium features. The first and lowest cost option is on top of your base license. You can get the Microsoft Viva Employee Communications and Communities SKU. That's an extra list price of $2 per user per month. And that gets you Viva Engage, all the premium features, along with things like Viva Connections and Viva Amplify, which I would love to talk about, but are outside the bounds of what we have time to cover today. Or you can get everything Viva all the time, get the entire Microsoft Viva suite, which includes all of the Viva Engage premium features for $12 per user per month. Many of the features that Microsoft is rolling out for Viva Engage are increasingly going down this Viva Engage premium road. So if you want to think about using Viva Engage over the long term, it's going to be more and more and more painful for you to see these great features rolling out that you can't use if you're not Viva Engage Premium. So just keep in mind that that's where almost all of these new features are going, is down the premium beltway. I also want to call out that Viva Engage adoption, Microsoft has, if any of you have ever heard or seen, they have a SharePoint lookbook that gives you the ability to see SharePoint sites in action, like home sites, hub sites, team sites, etc. They also have a Viva Engage lookbook, which is actually really great. It's got an adoption guide, it's got templates and a training guide that you can use to be able to create corporate communications for Viva Engage. If you've used Yammer, it also has a Yammer to Viva Engage rebranding toolkit that you can use to help give you something to start with from a communication perspective. And it's actually got quite a few tips as well on how to use Viva Engage to support your launch of Copilot and how you can create Copilot communities inside of Viva Engage to be able to go farther and do more. So I would encourage you to check that out as well. And then Michelle, I know that we had a lot of questions. I hope I was able to address most of those questions as we went through. Thank you all for being a great group.
I think you did. Unless anybody wants to come off mute, feel free. We got a couple more minutes. It was fantastic, Sarah.
I love Viva Engage, and I love talking about bad words, and you know that.
Yes, I do.
So, question from Jason. Last I checked, guests in Viva Engage can't be controlled at the community level. I believe that that's correct. It's either going to be on or off. Do you know if there are any plans in the future to control that at a community level, which we can restrict which communities allow guests? The only way, Jason, that I think you may be able to do that may be because modern Viva Engage requires you to use Microsoft 365 groups. So theoretically, I think Microsoft has left maybe a window or an opening to be able to do that. But Jason, I know of nothing on the roadmap that really enables you to manage those permissions more discreetly as of yet. Can you control guests with sensitivity labels? You can, slightly, depending on how you have your sensitivity labels configured. For example, if you have some sensitivity labels, for example, top secret, that prohibit you from turning on all employee access to a group, Pete, that might be something that you can arrange within Purview, but that's kind of a deep well. You just have to make sure that you're working with your overall Microsoft Purview team to be able to handle all that.
Yep, and I posted in there a really good article if you want to know more about how to limit your B2B guests using Azure AD, the M365 group construct for your Viva Engage communities. Great Microsoft Learn article if you're wanting to go down that path.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. Thank you so much for